Cindy Williams spent decades making 60 million Americans feel like she was their neighbor, their best friend, someone they actually knew. What they never knew was the woman behind that, the childhood she survived, the career she nearly lost twice, the pregnancy that cost her one of the biggest shows in television history, and the illness she kept completely hidden until 5 days after she was already gone. Van Nuys, Los Angeles, August 22, 1947, and the Williams household was not a comfortable place to grow up. Francesca, her mother, pulled long shifts waitressing to keep the bills paid. Her father worked at an electronics company and drank enough that the mood at home could shift without warning. What saved those evenings was his gift for doing impressions of Jackie Gleason and Milton Berle. Cindy watched that happen over and over and absorbed a lesson that never left her. Humor was not decoration. Humor was the thing that kept a room from collapsing. She had a younger sister named Carolyn and a half-brother named Jim, and the three of them grew up wearing hand-me-downs in what the family later described as reduced circumstances. The family moved to Dallas when Cindy was barely a year old, then returned to Los Angeles when she was 10, and every relocation meant starting completely over, walking into unfamiliar classrooms and figuring out within days how to make strangers feel comfortable around her. That skill, developed purely out of necessity, would later become the thing that made her impossible to look away from on screen. Church gave her something home couldn't always provide, which was predictability and a stage. Their Sunday school productions let her step into characters and feel, as she later described it, powerful in a way that ordinary life didn't always allow. By the time she graduated from Birmingham High School in 1965, sharing a class with a girl named Sally Field, Cindy Williams was not merely dreaming about performance. She had started preparing for it with a seriousness that most people her age hadn't found yet. Los Angeles City College came next, where she studied theater while waitressing to cover rent, sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, auditioning during the day and working shifts in the evening. The apartment she rented cost $175 a month, and there were stretches when her bank account held less than $20. What she kept through all of it was a notebook recording every audition that didn't go her way, 157 rejections before she booked her first national commercial. That number deserves to sit for a moment because 157 times she walked into a room, gave everything she had, walked back out empty-handed, and kept going anyway. By 1969, that persistence started generating traction. A Foster Grant sunglasses commercial put her face in front of a national audience, TWA, airlines followed, and small television roles in Room 222 and Love American Style let her sharpen her instincts on camera. None of these made her a name. She was always the girlfriend, always the neighbor, always positioned slightly outside the center of the frame. Then, in 1970, while working on a variety show called The Funny Side, she had to dance with Gene Kelly and step directly on his foot mid-spin. He finished the number without flinching, and years later, when they shared a stage again, she stepped on his foot a second time. He laughed and told her some things never change, kid. That kind of moment, genuinely clumsy and entirely real, was exactly the quality that would eventually make Shirley Feeney one of the most beloved characters in American television. Serious film work arrived in 1972 when George Cukor cast her in Travels with My Aunt, opposite Maggie Smith. And then 1973 arrived, bringing a low-budget film about teenagers in 1960s California that George Lucas was putting together on $777,000 and very little studio enthusiasm. American Graffiti cast Cindy as Laurie Henderson, and what she brought to that role came straight from a wound still fresh. Her real-life boyfriend had recently ended their relationship, and that pain poured directly into the character in ways Lucas recognized immediately. He rewrote portions of the script to give her more depth, and the result was one of the film's most quietly powerful scenes: two teenagers smiling brilliantly at a watching crowd while whispering an argument underneath "Smoke Gets in Your Eyes." A BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actress followed in 1975. Ingrid Bergman took the award, and losing to Ingrid Bergman is about as dignified a loss as Hollywood offers. Ron Howard had watched all of it from close proximity, and that's when the chain of events that would redefine her life began. By 1975, he was Richie Cunningham on Happy Days and arranged for Cindy to appear in a guest episode, pairing her with Penny Marshall. What happened between them on screen was not something you could manufacture or rehearse into existence. Gary Marshall, Penny's brother and the architect of Happy Days, noticed it immediately and began building something around it. Just 2 weeks after that episode aired, his office called again, and this time it wasn't about another guest spot. ABC wanted a full series. Cindy and Penny had to ask someone what a spin-off actually meant. All they understood was that something had shifted. Laverne and Shirley hit screens on January 27, 1976, and within months overtook Happy Days in the weekly ratings, the very show that had given it life. At its peak, more than 60 million people watched it every single week. Cindy's character, Shirley Feeney, was built from the inside out over weeks of preparation before a single frame rolled. And the nervous laugh required weeks of practice before it sounded genuinely involuntary. Cindy kept personal journals written entirely in Shirley's voice. "Boo, boo, kitty" came from her suggestion. The prim, neat sweaters that placed Shirley in constant visual contrast to Laverne's toughness, that was her instinct, and it made the whole dynamic click. By 1979, hairstylists across America fielded daily requests for the Shirley cut, and Cindy was receiving over 1,500 handwritten fan letters every week. None of that warmth came without physical cost. Cindy trained with vaudeville performers before the show began and performed the overwhelming majority of her own stunts. A 1978 episode requiring her to wrestle bottles on a conveyor belt took 37 consecutive takes and left her with 3 bruised ribs, and she kept going. And the roller skating sequences in 1977 involved her doing the splits with 0 prior skating experience. Filming ski scenes in genuinely freezing temperatures gave her frostbite. A single 3-minute comedic routine with Penny Marshall required over 50 hours of rehearsal to achieve the timing they wanted. January 1978 brought a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy alongside Carol Burnett and Jean Stapleton. Studios responded by putting significant offers in front of her, starring roles and real creative control and substantially more money. Every single offer got turned down. She stayed loyal to the show and the $30,000 per episode she was earning by 1979, and that loyalty would eventually be the thing that broke her. Early 1982, Cindy discovered she was pregnant with her daughter Emily. Conversations with production suggested accommodation was possible, that the pregnancy could be written into the story or worked around carefully. Then, the actual contract arrived and those conversations had left no mark on it whatsoever. After reading through the document, she told them she couldn't sign it. Just 2 episodes into the 8th season, Shirley Feeney effectively ceased to exist on the show. No farewell episode, no emotional send-off, just a note in the story explaining she had moved away with her husband. August 1982 brought a $20 million lawsuit against Paramount Pictures, filed by a woman who had just walked away from $165 million in contractual earnings to protect her unborn child. The case settled quietly. The damage to her standing in the industry and to her friendship with Penny proved considerably harder to settle. May 1st, 1982, Cindy married Bill Hudson, who had finalized his divorce from Goldie Hawn not long before. Overnight, she became stepmother to 6-year-old Oliver and 3-year-old Kate Hudson. Tensions between Bill and his children ran deep and public by 2015, when Oliver posted a Father's Day message directly addressing the estrangement, and Bill responded bitterly. Kurt Russell had long since filled the fatherly role in Kate and Oliver's lives in ways Bill had not. The marriage lasted 18 years before ending in 2000. Through all of it, her own children, Emily and Zachary, born in 1986, remained almost completely outside public view, and that was not an accident. The years after, Laverne and Shirley brought inconsistent results. Normal Life in 1990, built around the real family of Frank Zappa and starring his actual children, Dweezil and Moon Unit, aired all 13 episodes and quietly disappeared. Getting By launched in 1993 with over 21 million viewers before falling to under 6 million and being canceled in 1994 after 31 episodes, which wound up being her last lead role in a network sitcom. Television movies offered steadier footing during those years, keeping her present in the industry while she raised her kids. That changed in 2002 when a Laverne and Shirley reunion drew 17.5 million viewers and produced the image many people had quietly hoped to see for years: Cindy and Penny Marshall embracing on camera and releasing nearly 2 decades of distance. Penny had made the first move in 1997, calling after her own marriage ended, and they cried and forgave each other and started fresh. 2 years later, a Law and Order SVU appearance as a grandmother, concealing her son-in-law's abuse, brought 15 million viewers and drew critical responses calling her performance haunting. She had prepared by studying court records and speaking at length with psychologists before filming a single scene. From 2006 through 2014, she committed herself to live theater, completing 267 performances across 42 American cities and winning a Best Actress award for a touring production in 2007. 96 consecutive performances of Blithe Spirit in 2009, not a single one missed. At 64, she put it plainly, saying television made her famous, but theater made her feel alive every night. Her memoir arrived in 2015 and hit number 7 on the Los Angeles Times bestseller list, selling 48,000 copies in its first month, covering the depression after Laverne and Shirley ended, studio pressure to resume work weeks after giving birth, a brief involvement with Andy Kaufman, and turning down both Airplane and Jaws 2 because of scheduling. Late 2022, people closest to Cindy started noticing canceled appearances on her touring one-woman show, Me, Myself, and Shirley. Her team said she was resting. The truth, held by her children and a small circle of trusted people, was that her health had entered a serious decline with no reversal ahead. Even during those final months, she kept reading scripts and discussing future projects, because the idea of not working was simply not something she knew how to hold. January 25, 2023, Cindy Williams died in Los Angeles at 75. Her family held the news for 5 full days before saying anything publicly. On January 30th, her children Zach and Emily described their loss as insurmountable, calling their mother one of a kind, beautiful, generous, someone with a brilliant sense of humor and a glittering spirit that everyone who met her felt immediately. She died almost exactly 5 years after Penny Marshall, who passed in December 2018 at the same age of 75. 2 women who found each other almost by accident, built something 60 million people watched weekly, were pulled apart by pain and professional betrayal, and eventually found their way back to each other. When Hollywood asked Cindy Williams to choose between her career and her child, she chose her child without hesitation and never once framed that as a sacrifice. That decision was character, plain and visible, and it tells you more about who she actually was than any rating or headline ever could.